This is Eileen Griffin with the Heartland View from the Heartland Daily News. In this week's top public policy stories, we're going to cover some economic news, as well as information about relocation and migration patterns, and a story about censorship and big tech. So let's just jump right in with some economic news. The U.S. economy continues to expand at a healthy pace despite President Joe Biden's initial flurry of executive orders attempting to slow or even eliminate growth. Biden's kamikaze approach to economics will weaken real growth. However, it's unlikely to stop the upward drift in stock prices. So long as the Fed continues to flood the economy with liquidity, monetary policy should be able to overcome barriers for growth for a while. Eventually, as the Fed's control weakens, the economy and stock values will suffer. The Fed's ongoing pledge to keep interest rates near current levels continues to provide a tailwind for stocks. The ideal move for stocks would be for a flat to slight downward move that would allow the economy to catch up to current values. Today's report on wages and salaries and consumer spending in December shows the economy remains strong at year's end. Although the overall economy is still slightly below its prior peak, personal income, real disposable income, and wages and salaries in December were all slightly above their prior peaks. Initial unemployment claims have been essentially unchanged since October at slightly below 900,000. The number of people receiving unemployment benefits continued to edge down to less than 5 million. Although the Fed says the pace of recovery in the economy has been moderate in recent months, market business surveys show the opposite. January surveys for both manufacturing and service companies moved from the mid-50s, which is healthy growth, to the upper 50s, strong growth. As a result, the ISM surveys this coming week should also show a strong start for the new year. Despite signs of strength seen in the business surveys, Friday's unemployment report is likely to reflect only modest gains in employment. Businesses appear to be able to continue to grow the economy without substantially increasing the number of jobs. In the market, although a correction was overdue, there are some reasons to justify a move down. Following his move to cancel the Keystone Pipeline, Biden issued an order halting all energy production on federal land. The Wall Street Journal reports federal land accounts for 22% of U.S. oil, 12% of natural gas, and 40% of coal production. All right, let's talk about relocation. There's lots of people moving in this country. According to the Postal Service, nearly 16 million households filed a change of address notice in 2020, a 4% increase. 300,000 more households made permanent moves than in 2019. As a Gallup poll found in 2018, 40% of Americans who lived in big cities would rather live somewhere else, while more Americans wanted to live in the suburbs and rural areas than actually lived in those areas. While such findings were generally ignored by density advocates, the pandemic has brought these preferences into sharp relief. Forbes writer Peter Lane Taylor said that when asking people why they were moving, the words they used were warmer, safer, smaller, stabler, lower taxes, less regulation, and fewer lockdowns. For example, apartment rents dramatically fallen in major cities across the country, with the biggest declines in San Francisco, New York, San Jose, Washington, Chicago, Seattle, Portland, and Honolulu, while apartment rents increased fastest in smaller cities such as Sacramento, New Haven, and Rochester, New York. In December, the Census Bureau published estimates of state populations as of July 1st that showed large declines in New York, Illinois, and California, while the states with the fastest growing growth were Idaho, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and Texas, while the fastest numeric growth was in Texas, Florida, Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia. The fact that home sales, new home construction, and home ownership rates have hit their highest levels since the 2006 housing bubble may lead some to wonder whether this is a new housing bubble. The answer is no. The facts in these two situations are completely different. And Budget and Tax has a story on censorship and big tech. In an alarmingly frightening trend, Americans are in the midst of an unprecedented wave of censorship perpetuated by social media platforms. Big tech has silenced the former president and made attempts to fully eliminate Parler, an up-and-coming free speech alternative to Twitter. We now live in an age wherein the most sacred of American rights, the freedom of speech, no longer applies to all. The rapid innovation of technology and the ways in which it affects our daily lives has baffled those of us who remember the pre-digital and dial-up days. Overnight, the emergence of social media platforms has elevated the national conversation and political discourse to a size and scope that was borderline science fiction nearly a decade ago. Within a few years, we have witnessed the previously unfathomable ability of individuals to express an opinion that instantly reaches a global audience, a development that would overwhelm and excite the founders of our nation. However, this mass communication network is managed by a handful of powerful tech titans who are protected from liability and who operate as monopolies. As recent events have shown, the power held by these gargantuan companies to tip the scales of information has caused many Americans to become fearful that they are unable to freely express themselves. The situation has become untenable. Social media platforms such as Facebook and Twitter have become the primary sources of communication in the 21st century. In today's world, the social network has become a major sector in the United States economy, swaying corporate successes and failures. In addition to influencing streams of revenue through advertising, we have seen more clearly than ever that social media platforms have the ability to impact and even guide the social discourse. The approval of narratives and discourses has evolved into outright censorship and proxy editing, thus allowing these big tech platforms undue influence over American society, far more than print, newspapers, radio station, or even television programs could ever dream of exerting. Overall, the unparalleled censorship of the President of the United States and others by Facebook and Twitter has left many Americans concerned that they will possibly be next. Big tech's arbitrary clampdown on those they deem guilty of spreading misinformation or disinformation has also raised the eyebrows of federal and state lawmakers as states enter into legislative sessions this year. This issue of censorship and proxy editing is significant and should be treated as such. Legislators should consider solutions that would protect all Americans from undue censorship by a cabal of big tech ideologues who wield near total power over the dissemination of information in today's social media-dominated environment. Social media is the modern-day public square, and in America, everyone has a right to their voice. Everyone has a right to voice their opinion regardless of whether or not a few tech titans agree with their views. More speech, not less speech, is always better in a free society. And those are the stories for this week for the Heartland View. These are summaries, but if you'd like to see the full version of them, you can see them online. Please go to our website, heartlanddailynews.com. There's also many other stories that are well worth reading. Please take a look at that. And if you believe in a free society, free speech, and free markets, please consider supporting the work of the Heartland Institute. You can make a donation by going online to our website, heartland.org. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your time. Have a great week.